Hi, everybody. This is Topics and Conversations with Famika Capricorn. And starting off the evening with, if you don't have children, the UK wants you to be taxed. But there's a twist always.
In the UK and you don't have children, you now may be subject to the no kids tax or the child-free tax, of which may be implemented now under a reformed UK government. You see, under this new policy, people who do not have children should pay more tax. You heard that right. Instead of actually helping those or giving benefits to those who have more children, let's penalise those who chose to not go down that financial and mental route. Now, to be specific, Goodwin, a Reform UK candidate, actually proposed this as the negative child benefit tax. And the purpose is quite literally in the name, is to tax anyone without any offspring and to actually remove personal income tax to any woman with more than 2 children. He frames this to reinforce family values alongside reinforcing the nuclear family. Now already, don't you think it's very interesting how they surround this entire thing around women, not men and women? It's almost as if they know that this is going to be specifically and disproportionately targeting women with this tax. And so if you need any more of a reason to vote against this godforsaken party that's actively trying to poison this country, and if you want to respect the autonomy of your own body and not feel pressured to do anything else with it, maybe, just maybe, you should vote against this madness.
And that's how important voting is for some people that may try to convince you or influence you that voting does nothing. It does everything. People that don't vote shouldn't have an opinion or complaints about anything. And I approve her message. Next.
Today there's something more horrific to talk about, but today's horrifying thing is a blog post put out by a Reform candidate in the UK. A few years ago, Matt Goodwin talked about taxing women without children more. And as disgusting as this sounds, as unfair as it sounds, it sadly doesn't shock me. This is like out of the playbook for parties like this, far right-wing parties that are all about causing as much division as possible and keeping women in their place. It doesn't also shock me because I lived in Germany for 12 years and they actually do have higher taxes for people without children. It's bullshit. It made me angry every time I heard this. We live in a world which, sadly, in some countries, they see people without children as not contributing as much as those with children. Now, that's not fair. I don't believe it for a second. I truly believe that, well, firstly, we don't have to contribute. We're not put on this planet to contribute or do some kind of duty. But I know in our community that the people who don't have children are giving back in so many incredible ways to our society, and way too often it's just dismissed. Because apparently if you have a child, that's the only thing that matters in our world. In a pro-natalist world, sadly, that is what matters. And when a party like Reform talks about doing things like this, you take it seriously. I have no doubt if Reform gets in, they will be doing as many of these bullshit things to cause as much division, and it will. Because if I was a parent and my government was saying, well, people without children don't contribute as much, that would make me think twice and go like, oh yeah, it's scary times. I'm keeping everything crossed that we do not let in this disgusting party who is about fear and scaremongering and racism. But looking at what's happening in the US, they are just another version of the MAGAs. The mask is fully off, so do whatever you can, get out and vote against these pricks. But yeah, it's scary times.
And for a country whose child poverty in the UK is now at record levels with 4.5 million kids living in poverty, yet they want to pressure child-free women into having kids into a system that is almost set up and doomed to fail them when they haven't even corrected the system for the kids to live in a world where they don't have to worry about poverty.
Kids who are worrying about where their next meal is coming from. And I'm fucking furious, quite honestly, most of the time, and we all should be. The single biggest driver of child poverty is the two-child limit, the brutal welfare policy that limits support to a family's first two kids.
It cannot be justified. It's the worst of Westminster. That's what it is. It's the worst of Westminster.
Working full time, trying our best, but that policy doesn't have a soil.
My journalism is driven by my own experiences of poverty. I knew what it was to be cold and hungry and to be aware that we were somehow different and less than. We have to ask serious questions of ourselves as a country. Why are the lives of our poorest children expendable?
Them up pretty much for failure. In 2023, there were approximately 3.2 million lone parent families in the UK, accounting for 16% of all families. Roughly 1 in 4 families with dependent children are headed by a single parent. So you want people to get pregnant and end up being a single parent and set it up for more poverty because you need more kids. And I'm going to tell you later on why this is. It has nothing to just do with having more kids. They have the same pressures over there as these people over here do, meaning it's a European thing. Get me? Around 90% of single parents are women, and the average age of a single parent is 38 to 39 years. Key UK single parent statistics, total numbers roughly 3.2 million to 16% of all families. And gender breakdown, approximately 85 to 90% are mothers, and 10 to 15%, of course, are fathers. More than likely because the mother may have died at childbirth, during childbirth, or a medical complication. Dependent children, nearly 1 in 4, around 1.8 million single parents have dependent children. The workforce participation, single parents are more likely to be out of work compared to couples, often due to high child care costs. Financial impact, the median net income of a single parent family is around $17,900, with many relying on credit. on credit for essentials. Regional and social data. Regional differences. In 2021, the proportion of lone parent families ranged from 13.1% in the Southeast to 17.8% in the Northeast of England. Age profile, the average age of a single parent is 38. Health, 33% of single parents are disabled, compared to 15% of couple parents. Ethnicity. In 2021, 8.3% of lone parent dependent children households belong to the Black ethnic group. Family structure. While 16% of all families are lone parents, 11% of all households, including non-family households, are lone parent households. Rising costs. 53% of single parent surveyed in 2022 cut back on food. That means there are children starving while we're trying to put pressure on women that are trying to be smart about not adding to the problem by adding to poverty. They're trying not to make a system worse by putting into something that's obviously not working. The age profiling, we went down a line on that, and the rising cost of food. So the health, 33% of parents, and the ethnicities, the trends, families, 11% of households including non-family households or lone parents. And then rising costs, 53% of single parents surveyed in the cut on food, heating, and clothing to manage childcare. Lone father families increased as a proportion of all lone families to 15% in 2023, up from 13.1 in 2014. In 2024 to 2025, there were 3.2 million lone parent families in the UK, with roughly 1.7 million to 2 million of those containing dependent children. Single parents, who are primarily women, approximately 89% face high financial pressure, with roughly 64% unable to manage an unexpected 850 expense to and 40 to 44% of their children living in poverty. They're dropping it up because they want to pressure women into being in a relationship with people that they haven't even gotten to know yet, or with people that they're not ready to be in relationship with, which is the same thing they're trying to do to single child-free women. They're trying to pressure them into being in a relationship when they're just trying to secure their life. You don't need to. Why go out there and date somebody and you're not financially stable? Or why bring someone into your house that's not financially stable? Key single parent statistics 2024 to 2025 data. The total numbers are 3.2 million total lone parent families. 2024, with roughly 2 million having dependent children. Percentage of households, 1 in 4 families with dependent children are headed by a single parent. Demographics, 89% are mothers, 11% are fathers. Poverty rate, children in single parents. Children in single parent families have 44% poverty rate, significantly higher than 30% average. Financial distress, 64% of single parents report being unable to cover an unexpected cost, and 20% reported running out of food. Employment and support, 33% of single parents are disabled. Approximately 71% of households affected by the benefit cap are single parents. So why would you take away their taxes just to tax them, forcing them into poverty? And you want them, are you trying to pressure them into having more kids so they can become more dependent on a system, while at the same time trying to pressure single women into having kids? It sounds like they're working in reverse instead of trying to work forward. Trends, 2025 to 2026 projections, rising costs. Household budgets for the single parents remain under severe strain, with 55% finding it hard to cope financially. Debt levels. Average debt for single parents reached roughly 8,290 in 2024, with 9% more seeking advice than in 2019. So it's not getting any better. Poverty projection. While some policy shifts like removing the 2-child limit or propose a reduced child poverty by 400,000, current projections for 2025 to 2026 suggest high persistent poverty levels for single parent households. Data shows that while the total number of lone parents has grown up to 3.0 million in 2014, the share with dependent children has stabilized, but they remain at the highest risk of poverty and financial hardship. And this is the graph showing that they are doing very, very bad. Very bad. And the UK is in the purple with 30% of the highest poverty rates. And it just gets higher and higher. Northeast Wales, Yorks, Northwest London, and the what's this? West Midlands. This is ridiculous. Proposals to tax child-free women or couples in the UK have emerged from political figures as a potential method to tackle declining birth rates and fund child services. As of February 2026, such a negative child benefit tax has been proposed by Reform UK candidate Matt Goodwin, suggesting that those without children should pay more taxes while possibly removing income tax from women with 2 or more children. How does that make sense? You're removing something that they need to have shelter and food and to be able to dress the child so that the child can go to school with that money they needed for school supplies. Yet you are taking away something that definitely depend on. Nowhere in this do I hear you talk about the men. I don't hear anything about men that are supporting the families of the single women. Do they pay support, or single men that are out there child free? Or they getting taxes? Well, because as far as what I'm hearing is that is generated towards single child free women. And why is this? Are y'all believing, are the women working harder than the men? This proposal intersects with complex issues regarding poverty, healthcare, and single parent struggles. Impact on poverty and cost of living. Proponents argue that tax would fund childcare, but how would it fund childcare if you're taxing families with 2 or more children? Shouldn't they be able to get taxes to be able to afford to pay for childcare expenses? This means that they'll miss work because they're not making enough money, and now they don't have the taxes and income taxes to help at least take the load off most of what they have going on. It says, but critics argue it penalizes people already struggling with the cost of living, and it does. Many people are child-free due to financial constraints, and such a tax would disproportionately affect the women. And they know this. They know this. Health insurance and reproductive health. While the NHS provides universal health care, critics argue that child-free individuals do not utilize costly maternity and early years services. A tax on child-free individuals is seen by some as disregarding the involuntary childless, the bereaved, or those who cannot have children. Childbirth dangers, and healthcare costs. The proposal includes biological reality, arguments suggesting women should have children younger. Critics have compared the policy to the Handmaid's Tale, wow, arguing it puts pressure on women to become pregnant, regardless of the physical or economic dangers involved, single parents, and existing disadvantages. Critics point out that the UK tax system is already one of the least family-friendly in the OECD, and often disadvantages single parents. The proposed policy could increase the disparity between parents and non-parents, even though some single mothers already face high rates of poverty. It doesn't sound like they care. It sounds like they're going to move forward regardless of what anybody feels or how anybody feels. It seems like they are dead set on a program of having power and set on whatever makes sense to them at the moment. And I feel like this is not fair towards mothers or child free women. It is a way to cause them to be dependent on men in some ways. And you should be able to pick to have a partner or not. You should not be forced to have to just settle for somebody because you're under the threat of being pushed out of your way of living or your independency. And let's get to the nitty gritty of it. Family friendly in the OECD and often disadvantages single parents. The proposed policy could increase the disparity between parents and non-parents. And it's been met with critics describing them as punishing rather than supporting families and stating they strip women of their basic dignity to choose. Of course, they want to. That is their whole get up about this. What percentage of women in the UK don't have kids? The lowest level of childlessness is 17.9% by age 30 years was for those born in 1941. The percentage of women who remained childless in 2020 by the end of their childbearing years have remained fairly consistent since the 1950s, with 18.1% of the latest cohort born in 1975 having no children. I want to understand what would make them think that people would want to have kids to put into a system that is already impoverished. It doesn't make sense. Like they're trying to make it. They think I don't. It's like they working blindly. They don't see what they're doing, and I don't think they care what they're doing. Like I say, this is why voting is very important. Marriage rates in the UK, specifically England and Wales, have hit historic lows in the last 5 years, with under 50% of adults now married, down from 49.4%. So it really didn't even change, or it didn't shake a tail feather for anybody to be pressured or feel like they need to get married into a system that's already warped and doomed from the beginning. I'm just going to read from the projection because I don't have all my templates coming up like they're supposed to. In 2011 to 46.9% in 2021, while COVID-19 caused a 61% drop in 2020. A temporary post-pandemic rebound occurred in 2022 before a return to long-term downward trend. Key trends in the last 5 years include historic lows. The number of marriages in 2023 fell to the lowest levels on record since the 1850s, with 224,402 ceremonies. Pandemic impact in 2020, weddings dropped to 85,770, the lowest levels since 1838, before recovering in 2022 to over 24 million people in England and Wales being married. Delayed marriage. People are marrying later in life, with the average age for opposite sex couples in 2019 being 34.3 for men and 32.3 for women, a trend that has continued according to Prince family. Delay, okay, so the rise in cohabitation. Couples are increasingly choosing to live together without marrying, increasing from 19.7% in 2012 to 22.7% in 2022. Civil partnerships, while the overall same-sex marriages have generally increased, although overall civil partnerships remain a small percentage of total unions. Maternal mortality rates in the UK. So I asked it about the mortality rates as far as why else would women want to be child free or not have kids due to UK's system, because we know they don't have a good maternal rate. So it said from 2020 to early 2026, the maternal mortality rates have risen to their highest level in roughly 2 decades, increasing by 20% compared to 2009 to 2011 figures. Data from the MBR RACE UK, Mothers and Babies Reducing Risk Through Audits and Confidential Inquiries, reports show that the mortality rate rose sharply during the pandemic and has remained high, with 252 women dying from direct or indirect causes during or shortly after pregnancy in 2022 to 2024. Maternal mortality rate deaths per 100,000 maternities, 2020 to 2022, 13.41 to 13.56 deaths per 100,000 maternities. 2021 to 2023, 12.67 to 12.82 deaths per 100,000 maternities, a slight non-significant decrease from the previous period, but it's still increasing nonetheless. 2022 to 2024, released January 26, 12.80 deaths per 100,000 maternities. Now, this is what they report as of late. Lead causes: thrombosis and thromboembolism, blood clots, are the leading causes of death, followed by cardiac disease and mental health related causes, which will be suicide. So pressuring somebody into being pregnant, that will cause mental health and that will cause suicide, because some people might have an underlying health issue where they are not able or capable of carrying a baby, which will put the baby and mother's life in danger. COVID-19 impact. COVID-19 was a major factor in 2020 to 2022, but the deaths due to COVID-19 dropped significantly by 2022 to 2024. Inequalities, stark disparities persist with Black women, 3 times more likely to die than white women, and we know why. In 2022 to 2024, women in the most deprived areas are twice as likely to die compared to those in the least deprived areas. Goal missed. The data indicates that government's ambition to reduce maternal mortality in England by 50% between 2010 and 2025 has not been met. So why would you put pressure on child-free women to have kids when you haven't even met the maternal mortality rate, making it safe for them to feel like they can have kids if that's what they want? Inequalities, stark disparities persist with Black women, 3 times more likely to die than white women. In 2022 to 2024, Women in the most deprived areas are twice as likely to die compared to those in the least deprived areas. Continue as of February 2026. The most recent data covers the period up to 2024, released in early 2026, and full data for 2025 and 2026 is not yet available. So white British women generally have lower fertility rates compared to many other ethnic minority groups in the UK, contributing to an overall national decline to 1.44 children per woman. While white British groups have higher total numbers due to population size, specific minority groups, including some Black ethnic groups, often exhibit higher birth rates and higher rates of infant mortality or stillbirth. Key findings on the UK birth rates by ethnicity. White British trends. As of 2014, the white British group accounted for 65% of all live births, but they generally experience low fertility rates per woman compared to the other group. Black ethnic groups data indicates that while Black, Caribbean, and other Black backgrounds represent a smaller overall percentage of births, roughly 0.9% to 1.9% in some studies, they often have different fertility profiles with higher rates of preterm births and some cases higher stillbirth rates, 7.58 per 1,000 for Black ethnicities compared to 3.440 per 1,000 for white. Overall context, the total fertility rate, TFR, in England and Wales is at a record low of 1.44, well below the replacement rate of 2.1. Maternal rates factor in 2019, 53.1% of babies in the white ethnic group were born in the most deprived areas compared to 82.9% for a Black ethnic group. Data particularly concerning specific comparisons between white and Black populations is often analyzed in the context of broader demographic trends in the England and Wales, where overall fertility is declining for all groups. Key birth statistics the last 9 years. 2023, 591,000 to 72 live births, the lowest since 1977. 605,479 live births, a 3.1 decrease from 2021. 624,821 live births with 51.3% registered outside marriage and civil partnership. 2014 to 2019, white British births were the highest percentage, 65% in 2014, with the highest stillbirth rate found in the Black African group, 7.64 per 1,000. As of 2023, the UK Kingdom is experiencing a sustained record low decline in fertility, with 2024 seeing the lowest fertility rate on record for the third consecutive year. The total fertility rate for England and Wales fell to 1.44 children per woman in 2023 and dropped further to 1.41 in 2024. Based on recent ONS data and studies through early 2026, here is the breakdown of the birth rate and trends as you see on the screen. The overall trends, UK 2023 to 2026, the total fertility rate continued to decline from 1.44 to 2023 to 1.41 in 2024, which we discussed in the last forum. Birth numbers, while the Total fertility rate fell in 2024. The actual number of live births in England and Wales saw a slight increase of 6%, 0.6%, to 594,677, likely due to migration. Projections suggest that the UK may reach a turning point around 2026, where deaths number of births, a shift accelerated by declining fertility. Births by ethnicity. Data on precise real-time birth rates by specific ethnic categories, white and black, for 2025 to 2026 is limited, but trends from 2023 and early 2024 data indicate the white population, white British, as of 2023 to 2024, the ethnic group continued to account for the majority of births, approximately 64% as of the 2023 data. However, the total fertility rate for the white population is in line with the national decline, and the number of births to the UK-born mothers has been in general decline. Black population, Black, African, and while specific regular updated rates for the Black community are not always separated in the high level ONS reports. Overall, non-UK born mothers accounted for 33.9% of all births in 2024. Studies suggest that Black ethnic groups often have a higher age-specific fertility rates compared to white counterparts, although these have also been experiencing a general universal decline. Stillbirths by ethnicity in 2024 rates decreased for the Black ethnic group compared to 2022 to 2023, while white British rates remained stable. So the summary for the key factor is the regional differences. London and the West Midlands saw small increases in total fertility rates in 2024, largely driven by higher percentages of birth to foreign-born mothers. The regional differences, London, so that doesn't make any sense that they would do this. Shift demographics by late 2024 date suggested that the white British birth has fallen to just over half, 53.8%, and some data sets indicating a rapid shift in national demographics. Rising maternal age. The average age of mothers increased to 31.0 in 2024. So that was a very long summary, but it's something that we needed to know. And it just goes on to say, as far as the UK is concerned, that the child poverty in the UK is now at record levels, with 4.5 million kids living in poverty. One of the biggest drivers of this is the controversial two-child limit policy, which caps universal credit and tax credits to a family's first two children. With the Labor government's child poverty strategy, due to imminently, many charities and campaigners have called for this brutal policy to be scrapped. This move looks a step closer after Downing Street's preferred candidate to be Labour's deputy leader, Bridget Phillipson, said that the policy had punished and pushed children into hardship, and the cap's abolition was on the table. So yeah, they're pressuring people into having kids, into a system that is doomed to fail them and their child. And it doesn't make sense, guys. So with that being said, I would like to know what you guys think because it was very interesting to me to talk about. I just wanted to talk about that because it seems like something very important and a need to talk about at the moment. So yeah, tell me what you guys think, and I will be back with another video sooner or later. Please be sure to like and subscribe and comment down below about how you would feel if you were child free. And I mean, it's basically getting like that here, where they're trying to basically actually pay you a little something to have kids, but it doesn't last forever. And neither does relationships. So when the man leaves you, you're still stuck with a situation to deal with. I'm a single parent myself. And so if I'm friends with people that are child free, and I would not dare pressure them into a situation that is not secure yet, and that is not something that will add to their life or even add value at this point. So I feel like if you don't want to have kids, you should not have kids. It should be your choice as to when, who, and when you get ready. So it's a tough situation. UK is feeling it like they're feeling it over here. And the women say it's like the Handmaid's Tale, like they're being forced to inbreed kids, only for them to put it at a cap where they can give you, where they decide if they want to give you taxes or not, which doesn't make sense. And then you have Black families that are in a system where their maternal mortality rate over there is life threatening. So it's like, why have kids if I'm Black British living in the UK when they can't even guarantee me my life? So yeah, guys, tell me how you feel about this, and I will see you guys soon. Have a good one. I'll see you later. Bye.